Hello, dear and kind people. Let us get acquainted with the legends of the Dogon people. Today, around 300,000 Dogons live peacefully in their settlements of clay huts built on the plains of Niger. At the foot of the cliffs, the people welcome the changing seasons with characteristic ritual dances, and their lives are permeated with myths from the depths of time. The Dogons appear to be ordinary people, although they possess astonishing knowledge of astronomy. Their creator, the god Amma, existed as something like an egg in which nothing existed, neither time nor space. But when Amma opened his eyes, his thought emerged beyond the spiral, spread outward, and this marked the creation of the world, a legend similar to the Big Bang Theory, as a result of which the universe was formed. After the Big Bang, the process of expansion of the universe began. Amma created the Earth by scattering pieces of rock through space and fashioned the sun and moon from clay. According to mythology, Amma also molded from clay 8 Nomo, small people with red eyes and green bodies. These myths become especially interesting when it becomes clear that the 8 Nomo came from Sirius. In 1931, the tribe's legend was rediscovered by the French anthropologist Grial and the ethnologist Dieterlen, who were conducting research among African tribes, including 3 other tribes in the region, the Bambara, Bozo, and Minyanka. For 20 years, Grial and Dieterlen shared the lives of the Dogons, who gradually accepted them as their own and, with the assistance of the local priest, agreed to share with them their entire vision of the universe. The 2 researchers described the Dogon myths without dealing with the thorny issue of their origin. What is certain, however, is that the Dogon's astronomical knowledge far exceeds their observational and computational capabilities. While explaining their view of the universe, the tribe's wise men drew a diagram in the dirt with a stick before the Frenchmen, who were astonished to recognize the constellation Canis Major, the star Sirius, orbited by a smaller star and another celestial body. The Dogons revered Sirius because their great ancestor had arrived thousands of years ago from a planet orbiting Sirius C, which we still do not know. Dogon legends say that their ancestors were amphibious beings who landed on Earth long ago on a specific day that they still celebrate today as the Day of the Fish, the first predecessor. Nomo, red as fire, landed in the northeastern part of the region in a cloud of dust and with a loud noise that shook the rocks. Then he descended into a pit filled with water, and only then did the amphibious astronauts emerge from the capsule. Water plays an important role among the Dogons, who believe that fresh water has a masculine character, while seawater has a feminine nature. They believe that water is the life force of the earth, a force that also exists inside stone because moisture is everywhere. Nomo, which also means commander of the ship, descended to earth carrying seeds of plants that grow in the heavenly fields. After creating the earth, plants, and animals, he created the first human pair, from whom the 8 great ancestors of the Dogons were later born. After passing on his knowledge to humanity, his task was complete and Nomo returned to the heavens. This tradition is close to many other well-known stories from antiquity. Among the considerable body of astronomical information that Nomo provided, including a description of the Big Bang Theory, it is claimed that Sirius is actually a triple star system. Its main star they call Sigi Tolo, Za Tolo, in the Dogon language means star, and the second star, Sirius B, which they call Potolo, is small, very dense, almost invisible, and orbits the large star we call Sirius A in an elliptical orbit. They explain the great density of the small Potolo by the presence of Sagala, an unknown, incredibly dense metal from which it is made. A third, lighter sun, Imiatolo, also orbits Sirius A. The Dogons claim that Imiatolo, also called the little sun of women, is larger than Potolo, but 4 times lighter. Around it revolve 2 planets, Araratolo and Utolo. The Dogons also know that Sirius B's Topolo orbits Sirius A in an elliptical orbit every 50 years, and every 50 years they celebrate the Sigui festival, whose ceremonies are intended to regenerate the world and ensure a good harvest. The ceremony takes place when Sirius is visible through a small opening in a rock near one of their settlements and coincides with a specific moment in Sirius's orbit. The complex series of dances is performed by men wearing strange masks symbolizing the forces of nature. The next Sigui ceremony will take place in 2027. Meanwhile, astronomers continue to analyze the Dogon legends, but the mystery of how they acquired such extraordinary cosmic knowledge will probably remain unsolved. What do we actually know about Sirius? Sirius A is our brightest star. It is 21 times brighter than our Sun and lies at a distance of 8.6 light years from us. In 1844, the German astronomer Friedrich Bessel first proposed the existence of a second star in the constellation Canis Major to explain unusual fluctuations in the apparent motion of Sirius A. The theoretical orbit of the star Sirius B, invisible to the naked eye, was calculated in 1851, and in 1920 Adams discovered that Sirius B was actually a white dwarf, and the first white dwarf discovered by humanity. Although invisible to the naked eye, Sirius B has a mass 4 times greater than that of our Sun. Its orbital period around Sirius A has been calculated at 50.090 years. We now know for certain that Sirius B exists, but Sirius C has not yet been discovered. In 1995, 2 French astronomers, D. Benest and J. Duvent, published an article in the prestigious journal Astronomy and Astrophysics entitled, "Could Sirius be a triple star?" They suggested that there may be a small third star in the system, a brown dwarf with a mass equal to half the mass of Sirius B. The Dogons also possess other equally astonishing astronomical knowledge for a supposedly primitive tribe living in Central Africa with virtually no contact with the outside world. They know that the moon is a dead planet. For generations, their priests have taught that the Milky Way moves in a spiral in which our solar system also participates. They know the different phases of Venus, almost identical to those of the moon, and give 6 different names to its various aspects, as though they observe them from space. They claim that Venus has a satellite, undoubtedly the asteroid discovered between Earth and Venus. They divide the sky into 22 equal parts and 266 constellations, just as we do today. And they know about the rings of Saturn and the 4 moons of Jupiter, although invisible to the naked eye. Yet they do not know the planets beyond Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, although they know the stellar companions of Sirius. Therefore, it seems obvious that the Dogons could not have acquired this knowledge on their own in any way other than through their cosmic ancestors. The Dogons also claim that the entire universe rotates in a conical spiral around a central core created from the voice of their supreme god Amma. Just as the Bible says that, "In the beginning was the word of the Lord." For them, the universe is infinite but measurable, which is confirmed by Einstein's theories. Moreover, they believe that the infinite worlds move away from us at very high speed in a spiral motion through a combination of transitions and rotations. This combination, they say, also exists in infinitely small elementary structures as well as in infinitely large ones. Thus, we see confirmed the latest discoveries related to the expansion and structure of our universe. From the history of the Middle East, it is known that the Sumerians also attributed the advancement of their civilization to contact with a being that descended from the heavens into the sea. It should be noted that this being was not described as a god or angel. Unlike other Sumerian mythological figures, like our amphibians, this creature had to live near water and often in the water itself. In fact, it was depicted in Middle Eastern sculptures as a half-fish, half-human being that appeared several times to civilize and educate humanity. Evidently, it met repeatedly with the Sumerians and shared many of its secrets with them. This legend has been passed down through generations among many peoples, including the Babylonians. In rock carvings, the creatures are depicted as reptilian humanoids resembling the amphibious demigod Onas and the fish-tailed demons. Oana, described by the Babylonians. Parallels can also be drawn with the legends of other civilizations from the periods surrounding the migrations of the Dogon's ancestors, because the descriptions of Nomo closely resemble the amphibious of the Akkadians and the Sumerian god Enki. Interestingly, traditions about amphibious people, benefactors of humanity, are also found in the myths of tribes from the other side of the earth. Ancient Aztec legends tell that dolphin, like people, descended from their ship into Lake Titicaca several thousand years ago and told the same story as the Dogons. The crew dug a large pit and filled it with water, allowing the dolphin-like beings to leave the vessel and dive into the pool in order to communicate with them. According to the dolphin's story, 2 species of beings existed on Sirius, a race of dolphins and another race of humans standing 4 meters tall. It seems that since deep antiquity, humanity has possessed knowledge about the structure of the universe. The extraordinary cosmic knowledge of the Dogons astonishes us, and we can only wonder how they could have learned all this without microscopes. telescopes, and higher mathematics, which were necessary for our own progress. If one day it turns out that Sirius C really exists, then we will have to reconsider other hypotheses regarding the origin of human civilization. And if all this is true, then the past of our planet will prove far more incredible and different from the modest understanding we currently possess. Then we ask ourselves the question, why has modern humanity lost the heritage of its ancestors? Undoubtedly, cultural exchange existed in antiquity, and it is possible that through the Egyptians, part of the knowledge of the Mesopotamian peoples reached even Greece. Furthermore, we see that Sirius appears frequently in ancient mythologies. This is not surprising, since after all it is the brightest star in our sky. The Egyptians knew well that it was connected with the flooding of the Nile. In Greek mythology, legends describe numerous amphibious creatures that were half fish and half human. Nevertheless, the hypothesis of extraterrestrials wishing to share their knowledge with the Dogons does not seem very convincing. Astronomer Carl Sagan agreed with R. Temple that the Dogons could not have acquired this knowledge without contact with a more advanced civilization, even if some scholars support the extraterrestrial hypothesis. The majority remain skeptical. For some, this knowledge can be explained very simply. The Dogons were colonized by the French, who opened secular schools there in 1907. Perhaps their astonishing knowledge comes from our own civilization. Unfortunately, this very rational argument is not well-founded. In reality, Dogon knowledge is very old and dates from before the beginning of colonization. It is even less likely that teachers would have taught them astronomy, and even more unusual that they would teach about Sirius B. The other assumption is much more plausible. The Dogons were not an isolated tribe. Their villages were located along the major trade routes connecting West Africa and ancient Egypt. Perhaps they also established contact with the great Islamic University of Timbuktu, from which they drew their knowledge. Carl Sagan himself also suggested that the civilization in question was terrestrial rather than extraterrestrial. Perhaps the conspiracy was created by Temple himself based on what he learned from Grial. Grial recorded the legend using only one, not particularly skilled translator, so it is possible that it was not recorded entirely accurately. If one day we discover that Sirius C, still invisible to us, truly exists, this will be indisputable proof, and the Dogon's knowledge will be confirmed. The study of ancient traditions is certainly a fascinating task, but proving their authenticity is quite difficult. Numerous testimonies show us the undeniable importance of Sirius to humanity since the dawn of civilization. But we may never know the true origin of the Dogon legends. All we need is confirmation.